really is the things we love most that destroy us, and in my case, that is in fact the recording of this video. I apparently didn't put an SD card in when I thought I filmed last time. If you didn't get it by the intro, today we are reviewing The Ballad of Songbirds Snakes, the Hunger Games prequel film that released last month. I'm incredibly behind the ball on this one, but I think I've had some complicated reactions to this film, and I'm curious to get y'all's take, assuming that a lot of you have watched it at this point. My first reaction to this film is completely my fault, and that's that the movie isn't the book. I pored over and obsessed over this book this summer, read it. I just loved it. I feel like it's a masterpiece of dystopian literature, and there are things that a film has to sacrifice from a book, or things that a book can do that a film can't, or that a film can do that a book can't. The most notable being, in a film, you obviously have visuals and you have audio. I felt that the major flaw of this film is that it rushes through a good portion of kind of the waffling that Snow's character does throughout this film. He sees the world from a not fully pro-capital perspective. However, he is not from the district, so he has this very unique perspective on kind of the world. There's a lot here that I felt like was really nuanced in the book that the film, by nature of trying to be in a film format, has to rush through, and a lot of that is the internal monologue. We don't get to see him waffle and complicate his emotions about both Lucy Gray, Sejanus, and all the other characters in the film or the book. We get that in the book, and we just don't in the movie. And again, this is something that I don't want to harp for too long, because I did ultimately very much enjoy this film, and I do think it is a worthy adaptation in a lot of different ways. I do just think if you're going in with the book fresh in your mind, the film feels a bit rushed. I feel like also key in this assessment is the marketing of the film. This was not marketed as The Ballad of Songbirds Snakes the way that the book was. This was marketed as The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds Snakes. And I feel like the arena and the actual Hunger Games in Ballad of Songbirds Snakes it is a central point for the story and what connects it to the other books, because it is this world and it is a very defining element of this society. But in the film and in its marketing, this is highlighted to a much more extreme point, whereas The Ballad of Songbirds Snakes is much more focused on Snow's journey from Capital Academy student to the president we come to absolutely despise in the Hunger Games. And I feel that this kind of journey is rushed a little bit to get to the games, which makes sense because that's where we meet Lucy Gray. That's where their relationship forms, and that becomes the most defining relationship of his life, along with the other people who inextricably are linked to him through this specific games and the way that they play out. This book is broken into 3 parts, and it's difficult because those aren't really equal parts that would translate to film acts. And so again, I feel like I've talked about this a little bit too much at this point, and I've probably bored myself a lot because I've already said all of this once before. But I really do feel that just my one critique of the film is that it does feel to be moving at a pretty fast pace at the beginning. And a lot of people might credit the film with being very efficient, taking all of those elements of the book and applying them to a 2.5-hour runtime. But I wonder whether this would have been better served as a limited series. Is there a better format for this? I don't think 2 movies there wouldn't have been enough content, or they both would have had to be really short. And there's not really like an equal split of this. It's kind of like 2/3 of the book, and then there's a point, which again, I won't spoil for the few of you who have not read it or seen it at this point, but there's a point in the book that literally had me like, I have to turn the next page and know what happens. This feels like such a momentous cliffhanger, and you just don't feel that in the movie because you're already sat in the theater. You don't have to like get up for an intermission and come back. It doesn't feel significantly different. There's no additional page turn, metaphorically, on film, if you will. Again, maybe chapter headers in the film, just some competing interests here that I just didn't think are interesting. But that's by no means to say that the creatives and people behind this film did not do a great job. All of the performances are amazing, and the production design, I think, kind of is one of the best performances of all. Loki and Ballad of Songbirds Snakes, this film, managed to kind of connect old technology with futuristic designs, and kind of craft those to make this very vintage, otherworldly feeling production design. And it's something that I really want to like look more at and possibly dive deeper into, because I think it's like you recognize it, but you don't. It feels new, but it feels old at the same time. Of course, I had to bring Loki into this because it's green and Ballad of Songbirds Snakes. You know what I'm saying. Same thing. But back to those performances. Zegler is great. Davis, Dinklage, Schaefer, Rivera are all phenomenal. But Blythe is a standout. Tom Blythe absolutely outdoes himself here. He really delivers on that internal monologue. And what I mean by that is not a voiceover or kind of just like a speaking at you throughout the film, but it feels very much so that he has read this book, internalized what this man feels and the way he sees the world and the internal struggle that is so much of what the book is focused on. And he brings that to life in his performance, and no more so than the climax scene of the film. You just see him, his reactions, his motion. It just all is done so incredibly well, and I cannot describe to you how much that feels that he has embodied that book character. Ultimately, I'd really love to go see this movie again. When I first saw it, I kind of saw it in a more packed, cramped, smaller theater. People's heads were kind of blocking the screen, so I can't tell sometimes if the environment with which I see a movie ultimately ends up impacting my view of the film. Plus, I kind of wanted to give space between this film's release and further time since I finished that book and the rest of the Hunger Games books to kind of go into this with fresh eyes. But let me know what your opinions are currently in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this review, because I post plenty of reviews and I've got a lot of exciting content planned for the last week of this year and next year. Can't believe it's almost 2024. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate your patience on this review because it's been a long time coming, and I will see you guys in the next one.